I can't even hear it. You have to wait.
Good morning.
Morning, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, very good, very good. Just checking.
Yeah.
So we still have a few minutes left, and we will give everybody else a chance to get on. Welcome, Mr. Maki. I know we had some technical difficulties with your emails bouncing back, but I'm happy to see that you made it. Did you have the opportunity to read the emails that I sent to you today? Okay, I'm not certain that Maki can hear me. Anybody else can hear me? Lockhart? Lorota?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. So perhaps he may have some issues. So if you have any issues, Miguel is available for the first hour of the class. Please try and connect with him and speak with him and see if he can assist you. Good morning, Lorota. How are you today? Okay, I wonder if because I know she had some difficulties last night. I wonder if she can hear. Okay, perhaps not. Okay, so once you can hear me, if you can't hear me, hopefully you can send an email or send some notification in the chat. If you send an email, I will check my phone periodically, but like I said, I'm not very technically savvy, so try and contact Miguel. Also put his cell phone number in the email that he sent out with the invite. So please contact him if you need any assistance. So whilst we wait, Lockhart.
Yes.
Okay, let me share my screen. I just want to make sure that you would be able to see. So let me just share my screen and let me know if it works, please.
Okay.
Okay, so it's being shared. Is it visible?
Very visible.
Okay, okay, good. So
Coming to Plumber World on Nike Street, opposite the F&M headquarters on their location on Robinson Road.
So we're getting some background.
Give you the best service.
Yeah, someone needs to mute the microphone, please.
Yes, thank you. I did ask for background music whilst we wait, but not commercials. I think Maki is still connecting, so he may be having some issues. Okay, so if there's anybody who was not able to make it in to the meeting last night, and thank you all for joining us. If you want to take this, we have about 4 minutes before we start. If you want to take the 4 minutes to introduce yourself, you may go ahead if you didn't introduce yourself last night when we spoke. No, nobody? Okay. And can everybody just check the emails, because last night I did have some problems whilst I was sending out the class instructions. For some reason I had to switch computers because the email was sending before I even finished. Once I put the attachment in, there was some issue. So please let me know if it was legible or if you need any clarity. We will discuss it in detail today, but I just want to make sure that everybody received it. and they were able to open up the attachment. Is what is really important is the attachment. So if you had any issues, please let me know. I think, Monique, I sent you a screenshot after you said that it was not legible. Did you did that and you confirmed that that worked? Anybody else in terms of the dates? Was the email legible?
Yes, it was legible. Thanks.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, so anybody else, just let me know. It has a lot of important information on it, and you would use that information throughout the course. So if there are any issues, just let me know. And I'm on a new system today, so hopefully, I shouldn't have that problem again. Um, I almost felt like I don't know if you all read in the news that the University of the Bahamas, their Zoom was hacked and their emails were hacked, and so that's how I felt last night. I said, "Oh my Lord, I hope you all got the right information because something happened last night with that computer. I'm not certain what. So if you see anything that's not related to AML, it's not from me." So did anybody read that story in the news? It came out last week where Zoom was hacked at the University of the Bahamas.
No, ma'am.
No,
I
okay.
remember seeing the headline.
I did see that.
You remember?
Sorry.
Right. Okay. Who is that? Miss Monique? Is that
Yes,
you?
good morning. Yes, good morning.
Okay. So you want to share with the class what the headline said?
It mentioned, I just briefly scanned. I didn't read the write up. It mentioned about the hacking of the UBS the university Zoom. But I didn't read the article itself. But
Okay.
it was there in the newspaper.
Right. So somebody hacked into their Zoom, and just as the person, like how I shared my screen just now, just as the person was about to share their screen, instead of he was doing a presentation to some class of more than 50 persons, some explicits came up on the screen.
Wow.
So that was very, very embarrassing, and they had to end the meeting right away. So just in case, there's a possibility, since the pandemic, millions of people are now using Zoom.
Yeah.
And so if you see anything out of the ordinary, it's not me and it's not this, okay? So you'll have to end the meeting. You'll have to close your eyes and you'll have to end the meeting right away. But hopefully that doesn't happen to us. We don't want to make it to the news.
Right.
Okay, good. Okay, so it's 9:30 and it's being recorded. So if persons come in the room a little bit later, that's okay. Like I mentioned earlier, thank you very much for joining the meet and greet last night and having the courage to share a little bit of your history and introduce yourself. So thank you. We live in a world now where it's who you know. And
Right.
so I really believe in developing your network, building future leaders. And so as we are this class, we took the initiative to take this class during a very trying time. So it shows that you're very progressive and you're interested in becoming a future leader in the Bahamas or even by extension the world. And so very good for signing up and using your time wisely. And so of course, as we all are future leaders, we need to know each other, we need to help each other, and so building a strong network. And so buddy up, exchange emails, exchange numbers. Most of my groups, they have a WhatsApp chat, but it's completely up to you, because when they join, they plan to go through for the 3 full years. And I say 3 years because this is just the introduction to AML and compliance systems, which is an overview of what happened, AML and compliance, and it's only for 4 weeks. It's a short and sweet overview, lots of information. Once you would have completed this, the next step is to move on to the intermediate section. And intermediate is a bit longer, a bit more detailed, that's 10 weeks. A lot of persons stop at that juncture, but if you do plan to work in the compliance department or become a compliance officer, persons move on to the ICA program. and that's a diploma program through the University of Manchester, and it's 18 months. It's 9 months of AML and 9 months of um, governance, risk, and compliance. And so at the end of that, you'll be successfully would have completed the full program. But some people, they stop at intro and they said, I'm not interested in working in compliance. I just wanted the overview because, of course, introduction and intermediate would be applicable no matter where you work in the financial services sector. As I mentioned last night, it's a statutory requirement training of AML and compliance systems. That means the law says that anybody who works in the financial services system must be trained in this area once per year. And you have to acknowledge that you've been trained, and then the regulators actually ask for a copy of your training logs, and your institutions will send that on. So if you ever wondered why every year we have to be trained on AML, they're always pushing this down our throats. It's mandatory. The firm is required to submit this to their regulator and confirm that all their staff have been trained. So most of the times, it's done in-house. Your firm would put some slides together on the pertinent parts of anti-money laundering and have a training annually. So this is a step further, a little bit more information, a little bit more detail. This puts you on the track to becoming a compliance officer. And so some of you spoke briefly about why you were taking the course and what you hope to gain from it. And so I don't know if anybody who didn't make it into the meeting last night, if you want to introduce yourself and just let us know why you're taking the course, and if it's compliance related, if you're in the compliance department, or if you're in a department, a lot of persons who do account opening, onboarding, or verification, they also take it because it's kind of the regulators, making it mandatory also for anybody who was on the front line to also have this designation. Okay, so anybody who wasn't here last night? No? Okay, fine. Just send me a side note or raise. There's a button on the side to raise your hand if you want to. Okay, so what we'll do is before we go into the chapter, we will look at what I sent. Did everybody get the email? If anybody didn't get the email that I sent last night, I'm going to share my screen so you can see which email I'm referring to. And hopefully everybody can see my screen, and it says Introduction to AML Compliance Instructions Homework or passing grade. So did anybody not receive it? Or I had some internet problems last night. Was it legible, and can you see the dates?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
okay.
clear.
Oh, okay, good. So is it clear? Did you have a time to peruse it? Did you see that at the front of your book tells you that how the course will be assessed, and it says class participation, homework, final exam. So I kind of broke it out to ensure that you see what you needed to do to pass the overall class. Now, the homework, what we hope for is that everybody goes into the exam with 30 or 35%. And the homework is how you would get the first 20%. Participation is how you would get the 10%. And then there's also a way for you to get a bonus 5%. So by the time it's June the 6th comes and you're walking into your final exam, you should be able to go in there comfortably, knowing that I would have completed my homework. I participated by reading or sharing, and I also have my bonus points. So you should be comfortable by the time you get into the exam. So going into the exam, you should have 35%. Was that clear?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Bullard, one question I have. You said that you expect us to answer 3,
Yeah.
but it's mandatory that we do question 2. So even if we decide to answer all, we don't need to send all of the answers to you.
No. So you don't need to send all because I think there are 7 questions.
Yeah.
Right. So there are 7 and all of those. Okay. So on the final exam, there are 10 essay choices. So out of, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see that there'll be 15 multiple choice and true and false. And there are 7 essays that are required. And so you'll have 10 choices. And out of the 10 choices, these are going to be similar. And so these, you just do them for practice. So
Okay.
in terms of studying, by the time you get to the final exam, you'd have already completed this for homework. So we want you to submit 3 pieces. It's with hopes that you would get 100%. It's very easy to get 100% on each paper. And so because we're going to discuss it in class, and then you go home and prepare it. And if you're not sure, you can email me on the side. We can discuss it. But more than likely, persons get between 70 and 100% on their papers that they hand in, and it's very easy to go into the exam with the 30%. So I would suggest that you complete all of them, hand in the number 2, which is mandatory, and your other 2 papers that you think is best. You could get that 100%, and we go from there.
Okay.
Okay, and so the dates are there. It's normally the Friday after we would have discussed the topic, except for the first question, because I didn't want to give you anything to be due. I think the mandatory question is due this Friday coming, so I didn't want to bombard you and make you feel like you had to do 2 essays up front. I want you to wait until you got sufficient information and was comfortable, and so that's why, even though that's chapter 1, that's not due until May 22nd.
Okay.
Okay, because chapter 2, the question number 2 is mandatory. So just so you're not overwhelmed.
I have a question, Ms. Buller. This is Brenda.
Okay.
Could you explain, you said with the late submissions, can you explain what do you mean within 2 days?
Okay, so but if it's due on Friday at 11:59, the latest you can send it in is Sunday 11:59.
Okay.
Right. Anything after Sunday won't be accepted, and so that means you would have to select another topic. That's for everything except question 2. So question 2 is due on Friday, next week, Friday, May the 8th. And I'll accept it up until Sunday. You will lose the 10 points, but anything after Sunday, you will not get a grade.
Okay. And another question with regards to the final examination. Have you assigned points for the multiple choice and the essays?
So each essay will be worth 10 points.
Okay.
The multiple choice worth 2 points.
Okay, awesome.
Right. And so overall, it's 70% to pass the class.
Right.
But it's like I said, you can go into the exam with 35% already. So, you don't have to be so overwhelmed and stressed about taking the final, or, we want you to study and have a get a good grade, but be comfortable in taking the exam.
Okay, and also,
not so much of your grade depending on what you get on your final.
Right. Another question with regards to the bonus points with regards to participating with Toastmasters, Rotary, or Kavanas. This is because I'm a part of Toastmasters and Kavanas too, but you're talking about a Zoom. Is this something particular that you're going to be sharing the link with, or is it any Toastmasters, Rotary, or Kavanas club? Just wanted to get that.
Correct. Any club. And if you are a part of it, by all means, please invite us to the one that you are part of. And we'll be happy to join you via Zoom. I mean, normally the classes would go in person, a group of 5 or 6 would get together one evening and go, but in these times, everything is being done online. So definitely, which club are you a part of?
94, the Kavanas Club of South Beach, Nassau.
Okay, and would you be happy to invite us?
Well, yeah, I'll get the information and submit it to you.
Okay, so thank you, and then I will share that with everybody. Since I always like that if we have somebody that's already familiar, and so to make everybody else comfortable in attending. And everybody, some people are introverts and they're very passive and they're like, oh, Miss Willis, it's not really my thing. I'm not good with people. I'm not good at networking. But in the world that we live in today, if you want to get to the next level, it's definitely who you know, and they will help you get there. And so good that you're happy to share with us, and we're happy that once you send out that invite, we'll attend. Or if you want to go, everything is on Facebook online. You can just Google to see which group is having a meeting and when, and they are very, very happy to have guests. And also persons from my other classes are in those groups. And so if you find it hard, and you don't want to do it alone, just let me know on the side and I'll hook you up with somebody who's more comfortable with it. Because at first it could be a little intimidating, but by the end of this class, everybody will be okay with sharing, attending, and networking.
Miss Bullard, I do have a question. Well, I'm a part of Rotary, all for it. All of the Rotary clubs here are meeting at different times, so I could also send a link to you.
Okay.
And you can send it out. They're all password required, so even though you see them advertise it on Facebook or Instagram, you still will need someone within Rotary to send it to you. So I'll send it out to everyone if they want to join. It's not necessarily going to be my club, but any of the other 8 clubs that hold the Rotary meeting during the week. Rotary East also has mostly their club meetings at 12:30 on Fridays. I know everybody's still working, but if they're interested, I could send that link out. Their speakers are more from Rotary International, so it's good to listen to one of those out. But my question is really on the final exam, how would that be conducted? Because I see it's on Saturday, June 6th.
Right. And so it's up to Saturday, June 6th, because I understand in case this curfew is extended into June, we're hopeful that it isn't. But if it is, what has been happening currently is we have been offering online exams, as well as the Institute has some hours where they are allowing one person to come in, and so they have 6 classes. So I guess 6 persons can come in at a time, and they can only bring their keys. They have to come with their mask and what have you. I think between 9 and 5, you'd have to make an appointment with Christine if you would want to do that, and you would be able to sit your exam if you're unable to take it online.
Okay, online would be better for me.
Right. And so as we get closer to the time, and once we do the review, I will make a list, or Miguel will take a list of who is going to do what, and we're happy to work with everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So any other, go ahead.
Okay, in receiving the bonus for networking, we received that based on us just attending the Zoom meeting or attending it and sharing it with the class.
Yeah, attending it and sharing it with the class. So normally, with Toastmasters, they have a word of the night. And so persons would just, at the start of the class, just like we are going to share our newspaper clippings, persons will come on and say, I attended this Toastmasters meeting and the word of the day was blah, 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 and who I met and what have you. Right.
Okay.
And some people choose to document it and send it in. So whichever is more comfortable for you, but just to share and try and encourage everybody else to join. But almost everybody, almost 100% of the persons that would have attended came back excited, was thankful, met a lot of good people, and it's a part of corporate Bahamas, and like I said, in these days it's really who you know, and they really help you get up there. So to develop your corporate social life, not that you're going to look for friends or godparents for your children, but professionally you want to ensure that you know the right people.
Okay. Thank
Okay, so
you.
no friends, no come over to my house or no. It's business relationship, professional relationship only. If you're looking for a boyfriend or girlfriend, no, that ain't what you're going for. Okay? Just stick professionally. I know sometimes we cross the line. No, this is for professional development only. Okay, because you will find as the MLRO and the compliance officer has to ensure that the entire organization is compliant, and so therefore you would need to be
Network.
able to, work with all sorts of people, all sorts of different personalities at all levels of the institution. And you want to be diplomatic with everybody. You want to ensure that you are approachable at all times and that persons you are well known. Um, I worked, like I said last night, I worked, the majority of my career was at Royal Bank Trust. And so um, whilst I was at Royal Bank Trust for a very long time, um, I had to call on legal to, get advice, share information, and to be properly advised. And so at the end of the year, my bill for legal used to be $30,000, $40,000. But after I started attending seminars and networking with the right people, I got some lawyers in my network, and now I have like over 30, just from these classes, over 30 lawyers in my network. And so I don't know if anybody ever called a law firm. When you call, they're very pleasant. They say, hello, it's 2 p.m. And they talk to you as long as you wish to talk. And then they say, okay, thank you, it's 5 p.m. And so they're telling you the time because they want you to know that you're going to be charged for 3 hours,
Right.
right? And so what I could do now is, because I have so many lawyers in my network, instead of the bank having to pay out $30,000 in legal fees per year, I call somebody on in my network and I say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think? I get a lot of free legal advice, and it saved the bank some money. And so therefore I was able to get bigger bonuses after I started reducing that cost. And so that's one of the benefits of the network. And of course, I found a way whenever they needed assistance to help them. Okay, and so that's one of the benefits of networking. And as we all know, even in Canada, in Royal Bank, there was a very big problem where um, young staff members or entry-level staff members felt that there was no way to get to the top unless you knew somebody on the executive team. And so what they did is they did a mentoring program where the executive team would take on a mentor from entry level for 1 year, and they attended lunches, they attended seminars together. And so by the time as promotions came up, they knew who they were. They encouraged them to go to school and upgrade themselves, and so they were eligible for promotion, and then they were known. Because it always helps. Like, I think we have about 16 or 17 persons in this group. What would make you stand out? If we all have the same qualification, what would make you stand out? For me to select you for a position that's available. And what makes you stand out sometimes, if everybody has the same qualification, is simply, oh, well, I know Monique. Monique was in my class and she always shared and she participated. Or the two persons that just spoke about Rotary, I will remember them because they invited the whole group, and so they were kind enough to say that we are already in this group. I'm happy to share. I'm happy to send you information. So of course, those persons are gonna stand up. So it's just like really human nature sometimes that gives you the edge. So, you want to be able to stand out in the group. And sometimes it's just that we all qualified and the person knows me, and so I get the position. So, there are some benefits. Okay, we good? Any more questions on the homework? Everything clear? Everybody knows when it's due. We won't call Miss Bullard and say, Miss Bullard, the computer, this happened, that happened. I get a lot of stories, but I am, once you get to me in sufficient time, don't call me at 11:59 and say you have a problem. but you know, we do have emergencies, and definitely we are going through a trying period right now. And so if things come up and you are late, just let me know, and I'll be happy to work with you. I'm not happy to work with you when you call me after the due date. So try your best to, you know, send me an email or try and reach me and let me know if you're having some difficulties. Okay, and that's with any homework or the final exam or anything else. Feel free to contact me and we'll work through it. Okay? Okay, so if there are no more questions on the homework, we will go to the book. And so if you had time to peruse the book, like I said, very small chapters, not very difficult to read. And so if you find this book difficult to read, you better stop at this course, because as you move on, the pages get more lengthier, and it requires a whole lot more. So these chapters, 8 chapters, 2 to 4 pages, the most. So very little reading, but if you have not been reading for a very long time, it can be overwhelming. And persons may think about, well, why is Miss Bullitt always saying that it's very overwhelming and it's a lot of reading? Because in this world, and not only in the Bahamas, in this world, people find it one of the most difficult things in life to do is read and stay awake and pay attention and not, you know, fall asleep halfway through. So a lot of persons have difficulty reading. So you may have a difficulty reading right now, but at the end of this class, hopefully we will overcome that and be able to move on to the next level. Because at the next level, you may find 5 to 10 pages and it still may be bearable. But as you go on to AML and to governance, risk, and compliance, each chapter is about 70 or 80 pages. So right now, this is just practice to get us to the next level. Okay, and so you really have to be focused and be able to read and retain the information that is in this chapter, those chapters, 70, 80 pages, sometimes 100 plus pages. But I don't want to scare you away. I just want to be realistic, and it's like I said, it is achievable. We have like a 90% passing rate, so don't feel overwhelmed by what I'm saying. Okay? And so because everybody is so quiet and I don't want y'all to fall asleep, you're still awake? Monique, I can see your beautiful smile. Nikki, you still there? No, Nikki doesn't fall asleep on me. Okay, so sometimes people say this is a very boring class. You're there? Okay, good. We want to make this interesting. We don't want anybody to fall asleep. Okay, so again, like I said, a lot of persons take this class because they are interested in compliance. When we look at the financial services sector, compliance is one of the top tier positions in the bank. Normally, there are 3 positions. Is the CEO, who is normally senior official 1, then there's senior official 2, then there is the MLRO. And so compliance is like the 3rd highest position within the bank. It's online with like trust is a specialized area of the bank. And so what I mean when I say it's a regulated function is that it has to be approved by the regulators. And so your institution can send out a job description in the newspaper, you can apply, they can interview you, and they can say, Brenda, you are the person I choose for this job. However, they have to go out to their regulator, and their regulator has to approve that person. And so that goes for the senior official 1, senior official 2, and the MLRO. And so there's a long application form that you have to fill out. There is, you have to produce your bank statements for 3 years. You have to get character reference letters, submit your IDs and what have you, and they do an extensive search on you. They come out and they speak to your neighbors, and it's similar if anybody has ever applied for a gaming board license. The gaming board license is like 66 pages, and they even want your children's birth certificate. So they do a very extensive background check and ensure that you are a fit person for that position. And so Therefore, they want you to have this designation, of course, not intro or intermediate, but ICA or ACAMS. And once you have that designation, they also want you to have 3 to 4 years experience in the position if you want to be the head of compliance. So some persons work in a very large firm where they have an entire compliance department. And so only one person has to be the approved person for compliance, the MLRO. If you work in a smaller institution, you will see that yes, the compliance officer may wear 2 or 3 hats saying I'm compliance, AML, and I'm MLRO. Okay, so there's an approval process before that institution hires you to become that compliance officer. Okay, was that clear? And it depends on who your regulator is. It could be the central bank if you're a bank. If you're a number house, it's the gaming board. If you're Bahama and Atlantis or one of the hotels that have a casino, it's the gaming board. If you work in insurance, then it's the insurance commission. Okay, good. Thank you for answering. Thank you that it was clear. Okay, so y'all just stop me because sometimes I go on, and so y'all let me know if y'all have questions or something isn't clear. Okay, good. So we understand that. And so what we want to do is, like I said, the chapters are very small. At the back of the 8th chapter, you will see that there is case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4. And so what we are going to do is today we're talking about money laundering as well as terrorist financing. And so we'll use some of these cases to discuss that. But just so you have an overview of what compliance really is, if everybody can turn in their book to case 1, right? And then I do want a reader for case 1. Any volunteers? Anybody wants to get their 10% in the first class?
Shay, I'll go.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, so everybody has found case 1 in their books?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. And so it says, so you just become the new money laundering officer. And in some countries, this they call it the MLCO, the MLRO. They use it interchangeably. In the Bahamas, we call it the MLRO. So wherever you see MLCO, just know that we call it MLRO in the Bahamas. Okay, so go ahead.
So you just became the new money laundering officer. 5 ways to help you get started. Number 1 is to make time to understand your business. For an MLCO to be effective, he or she must take the time to really learn and understand the business he or she is trying to protect. Writing policies, reading suspicious reports, monitoring and training become pointless if you don't understand the environment you are in and the needs of your peers at the front line. Take time to sit with them, engage in their day-to-day activities, and make inquiries in regards to the challenges they face and issues with which they need help. Ask and be prepared to listen to what they have to say. That will help you truly understand what they are doing and how you become a valuable and necessary partner. Number 2 is there is no shame in training. People sometimes think that when they get their trained job, they can avoid further training, mainly because they seem to have already proven that they are up to the challenge. I have news for you. This is not the case. There should be no shame in receiving training. Training should be continuous. Even if you are repeating yourself, try to find training opportunities in your area, in your town, in your country, and internationally. Choose carefully and try to find those seminars or workshops that will help you in successfully discharging your duties. Trainings can even provide you with ideas for conducting your own training for your colleagues. There are many training opportunities on anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing, but there are also more specialized ones about the role of the MLCO and writing MLCO reports. It is important to realize and appreciate that the cost of such trainings are very small when compared to the personal benefits you will receive, and more importantly, for your organization. Number 3, seek resources outside of your immediate environment. Do not concentrate just on the local legislation and the relevant regulatory guidelines or directives. Those are obviously important, but they are not enough. It is equally, if not more important, to broaden your horizons. The European AML directives apply across all of Europe, so you will find that there is more guidance out there that will help you understand your duties and how to be more effective. There is also useful guidance from US regulators, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, Australia, New Zealand, and more. Just use Google search. A number of professional bodies also offer free subscription newsletters on Know Your Customer and AML, as well as general compliance and ethic matters. The MLCO role requires a lot of critical thinking and analysis, and accordingly, I would advise you to set up your own library of guidance notes, training materials, presentations, articles, and case studies. Organize these into folders and refer to them when you are uncertain about a situation or when you feel like confirming something before you make a business decision or provide advice. Also, there are some useful and current books on AML and CCF, as well as general compliance management. They can be helpful both as a tool to get you started, but also as a reference from time to time. 4, members to professional organizations. Nowadays, one can find quite a few professional membership organizations for AML compliance professionals. One of the best ones to subscribe to is the Association of Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialists. Becoming a member of one or more of these organizations opens the door to abundant resources and practical tools to help you perform your duties and excel in what you do. Some of these organizations also offer training opportunities, seminars, and conferences you can attend to become and stay current with what is happening in the AML world. Specifically, ACAMF offers the CAM certifications, the gold standard in AML certifications, and also organizes a number of conferences in Europe and the rest of the world. These are especially useful to anti-financial crime professionals. Number 5, network. Attending relevant conferences in your country or abroad is a great way to meet with peers. Networking is a great way to meet with peers, Networking is very important in today's fast-paced environment. It is vital to exchange ideas, to share resources and experiences, and to seek help. Many of the professional membership organizations described offer local chapters or forums where members can gather and organize relevant and specialized trainings, exchange ideas on the way they do things, and even have fun together. Also, social media is very important. Use LinkedIn or even Facebook and Twitter to follow professional bodies and professional membership organizations that share important news as they happen. You can share what you have learned with your colleagues. Your colleagues will appreciate the valuable and relevant information you provide. Contrary to popular belief, MLCOs can be an exciting, popular, and innovative person and a valuable asset to his or her colleagues and their organization. Remember to be open and welcoming and embrace the challenges and prospects of your position and be prepared to make a difference.
Okay, very good, Tashay. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so that's basically an overview of what I'm saying, or what I have said. Attend the seminars, network, get to know persons. Keep your library is very important, especially if you're going to go on to the last level. You will find that you would need to refer back to your notes, or once you would have done some very extensive research, there's no need to do it 2 and 3 times. And so if you are organized and you keep your library, you can just refer back to any research that you would have previously completed. Because sometimes it's hard to remember a decision you would have made 2 or 3 years prior. And so once you would have done your research and made a decision, you would have called in your network and asked them for some advice. because you want to make the right decision, and you won't always make the right decision. Just like we say, you can mitigate risk, you cannot eliminate it, because we know that there are a lot of hackers and persons who have probably attending class on how to become the best hacker or the best criminal they can be. Just like we're in class trying to say, how do we mitigate, how do we stop them from infiltrating our system? So keep your library, build your network, um, ensure that you know the right people, like ensure that you upgrade yourself so you can be of asset and some help to them as well, and be professional as possible, because you have to, like I said, you have to work with everybody, from the entry level all the way up to the executives. So you want to ensure that everybody sees you as approachable and knowledgeable, and that you always maintain an open door policy. And so another thing about the MLRO is that they report to the board. And so the MLRO must be completely independent of the business. Now, that's what should happen in a lot of institutions. That's not happening. But if you go into the institution to work in the compliance department and you find that, you're the most senior person and you're not reporting to the board, that's a red flag. Okay, because we don't want compliance to be intimidated. We don't want compliance to feel like they cannot file an SDR, which is a suspicious transaction report, or report any illegal or outside of policy behavior happening in these institutions. Okay, so any questions regarding what was just read? Or it just ties right into what I was saying in terms of becoming a new compliance officer, being diplomatic, being able to work with all sorts of people in the organization. Are we good?
Yes.
Good? Okay, good. Thank you, Mackenzie, for responding. Thank you. This room too quiet. I got to give you all more readings. More readings. Okay.
So,
good.
Just a quick question.
Go ahead.
In reference to getting the designations, in your personal opinion, would you suggest getting the CAMs as well as the designation from ICA, or either one could be
either one? Yeah, either one. And so at the institute, we offer the ICA. The CAMS is a shorter, less information. Some people say it's easier. CAMS is US and ICA is UK.
Okay.
And so we encourage the ICA. Is very much more detailed, and we have had word from the industry that perhaps later on the CAMS may not be sufficient. They're looking at it now to find out if you can be approved at the MLRO with the CAMS only. And so later on, right now, you can be approved as the MLRO if you only have CAMS, but you don't want to be working in the system for about 5 years and then they turn around and tell you, oh, you have to go and take ICA. So this is why we encourage that you take ICA. Okay, but this introduction and intermediary program was born out of persons in the system. They may have had a first degree, or like particularly last year, lawyers that have a corporate service provider for the first time was regulated by the Compliance Commission. And so that meant that they could not get their business license if they did not have a MLRO or compliance officer on staff. And so we saw last year, we had at least 40, 50 lawyers try and attend the ICA course to be able to, satisfy that requirement for licensing. But they would have gotten the designation, but they did not have the years of experience in compliance. And so in some instances, they were not approved. They still had to go out and find an MLRO. And so, of course, that's cost to the business, and they didn't want to do that. And so these classes, some of them were not successful because they would have had their law degree again, like I said, from 20 years ago, and they felt like oh, I have a law degree, I could definitely do ICA, but it wasn't that easy. And so if you haven't been in the field, or if your degree is more than 5 years, we do encourage you to start at introduction to ensure that you are successful. So this is how we started the introduction and intermediary, so persons would know if they can actually do it. Because like I said, it is a lot of work and it's very comprehensive. As you can see from the exam, 7 essays have to be written. And so, and this is just introduction. So of course, you know, as you go move on, it's going to get a little bit harder. So I don't know if 7 essays is easy. There's no big deal, Ms. Bullard. I don't know. For some persons, it may be a big deal. For others, you know, it may not be.
Okay.
So, Ms. Bullard, for the Bahamas, are we more under the UK or the US? Or it depends on which?
We have common law, and common law is in the UK, sorry, yeah. So, yeah, we're more to the UK. You remember we used to be a British colony, so yeah, UK, yeah. Okay, that's it for the questions. We can go on.
Yes.
And feel
Yes,
free
go
to
on,
interject. Go on. Okay, you're ready. Okay, good. Okay, so again, chapter 1. I don't know if we had sufficient time to read it, but chapter 1 just talks about money laundering, or anti-money laundering. So if we're going to talk about anti-money laundering, let's first say what is money laundering. Okay, and so there, in terms of money laundering is the proceeds of somebody's crime, right? And so back in the day, you know, for the most part, we thought about drug dealers infiltrating our financial services sector, and we didn't want that to happen. And so we were focused a lot around just drug dealing. And so let me just go back to, I don't know if everybody remembers back in 2000 when we were blacklisted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we were blacklisted, and so the world got down on us, and everybody said, you know, you have to fix your laws. You have to make sure that your laws will prosecute these persons who try and drug deal or extort or have illegal means and washing this money in the system. And so what happened is the FATF is an international body. And what the FATF did in 2000 was they blacklisted us, and they said that we want you to update your laws based on our 40 recommendations. So they put out 40 recommendations, and for instance, in the recommendations, you have something like recommendation 1. And what recommendation 1 tells you is that countries should assess their risks, and then they should put controls in place. So based on those 40 recommendations, we had to put into law whatever those 40 recommendations said. So what we did is we created a legal framework regarding AML. And in that legal framework, I think we have 7 or 8 laws. The FTRA, the terrorist anti-terrorism bill, the FTRR, Financial Transactions Reporting Act, and then we have the Proceeds of Crime Act. And so in those laws that we would have put in from the 40 recommendations, those laws make money laundering a crime. And so recently, that was back in 2000, and so that's what we did to not be blacklisted any longer. Now, banking used to be 20% of our GDP. Banking today is now 3% of GDP, so that means we would have lost 17% in the financial services sector. And what happened is that regulation is very expensive. Compliance is about 20 years old now compared to like operations departments or credit departments. So compliance was born out of these 40 recommendations and these laws that the Bahamas had to put in place. And so therefore, in 2000, we put in the shell of the law. We put in the shell and just to get off the blacklist. And so we did that because it would wipe out, like I said, we have lost 17% of GDP. So what really is our second sector? And now we're having a problem with tourism now because of this pandemic. Okay. And so therefore, if the Bahamas had put in all these laws and they were satisfied completely, it would have wiped out a banking way faster than it did. So over the years, you know, once the FATF came in and they looked at our laws and they said, okay, we see that you put in the framework, but nobody's really trained in this area. I need you to ensure that your laws say that training is a statutory requirement, which means that it's required by law. So then we did some updates in the last 20 years to ensure that, you know, wherever we were deficient in the law, we updated that. So luckily, the FATF did not put a lot of pressure on us until 2017 when they landed in the Bahamas with the IMF and they did a full assessment on the Bahamian law, and they saw that, hey, you may have these laws in place, but you know, any Bahamian can hire do seal, and once you hire do seal, he'll win this case on a technicality because there are some loopholes in the law, right? Everybody familiar with do seal?
No.
No? Okay, so he is this very popular lawyer in the Bahamas, and Monique, I know that you're familiar, and he normally would win a lot of the cases based on technicalities because the Bahamian law, let's just say the shell of the law was in place, but the meat wasn't there, right? And so for years, nobody was charged with money laundering. The first time we have ever seen somebody charged with money laundering was, I think, Melanie Reckley. Everybody familiar with that case? The lady from Urban Renewal?
Yes.
If you're not familiar with, right. So she is actually the first person to be charged with money laundering in the Bahamas. So when the FATF came in and they did their mutual evaluation in 2017, they said, hey, does the Bahamas only have law-abiding citizens? Why hasn't anybody else been charged with money laundering? And then for the first time, we see that our politicians were brought before the court. We see the Shane Gibson, the Frank Smith, and everything charged with corruption and charged with bribery, right? We are familiar with those cases?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so internationally, we're being watched. And so this is why we have to ensure that these persons are prosecuted. So in terms of money laundering, we had to update our laws, and there was a 2017 mutual evaluation where the FATF came in and they said, listen, we are going to look at our 40 recommendations and we are going to compare it to your laws, and we're going to see if there are some defaults. Okay? So out of the 40 recommendations, they would have found that we defaulted in 22 of those 40 recommendations, okay? And so what you would have seen in 2018 was a lot of the laws that came out in 2000 when we were blacklisted were repealed, replaced, and then there were some recommendations that even had to be created, some new up there, like the beneficial owners registry and what have you. All of that had to be created because we were deficient. And in these last years, the FATF, which is the international body, was working on enforcement and ensuring that proper oversight was in place. And so what they did is, another area that was deficient was that the law firms, the accounting firms, and the real estate firms that had a corporate service providers arm, which means that they provide financial services to clients, they had to be registered with the Compliance Commission. And in registering with the Compliance Commission, you had to also have an MLRO or compliance officer on staff. Okay? And so therefore, that was one of the recommendations that the FATF had made to us all the way back in 2000, but we did not put it in place because, of course, that costs money. Regulation is very expensive, and for all institutions, compliance makes no money for the business. Okay, so you know that most businesses are concerned on sales and bringing in money and meeting the bottom line. right? So here it is. We want to make this money. We set our targets. We have our relationship managers out there in the field working. And here we have this compliance department telling us, no, the policy says this, the policy says that. In order to open this account, you have to fill out this form. You have to bring your ID. You have to bring a proof of address. Somebody else has to sign. There's so many things that have to be done. In terms of tax, that was another recommendation that is one of the 40 recommendations that, you know, the Bahamas used to be a tax haven. And so from this beneficial owners registry and another, I think the Data Protection Act, all of that was created. You know, the Bahamas signed into a lot of agreements to say that anybody who was not a Bahamian citizen that had money in the Bahamas, we would tell you that they had this money here. And so, you know, before we were known as a tax haven, and that's where we got a lot of our money from. So here it is, we can no longer be a tax haven. And so you can see why we waited from 2000 to 2018 to put that law in, because back in 2000, we would have wiped out the financial services sector. We would have lost all this percentage if we had put these in place and we had enforced them. And so what the government did to protect the economy is like they staggered implementing some of the law until they couldn't, until the FATF actually came in and said that, no, this can no longer happen, or we're going to blacklist you again. And this didn't only happen to us. This happened to all the countries in the world that are a part of the FATF and our member countries, which is, you know, most of the countries in the world. And so if you go under ICA, you will see that there were mutual evaluations of every country, and it was not only us that staggered the law and put it in place. Switzerland had put it in place, staggered the law as well. Germany had staggered the law, because in Switzerland they staggered the law because they used to have 250 offshore banks, and now they only have 50. And all of this is because of regulation, how expensive it is, how expensive it is to enforce, and how expensive it is to, you know, hire an entire compliance department. Okay, so that's just a bit of history on how we got to ensuring that our laws were updated. So we had a mutual evaluation in 2017 where the FATF came in and said that 22 of the recommendations are not in place. And so therefore, we want you to update your laws to ensure that these are in place. And if you don't update your laws, you will be blacklisted again. And so in 2008, instead of being blacklisted, they decided to update the laws. So what I want to do is just share with you the FATF mutual evaluation that I'm speaking of. And if you look at the screen, can you see it?
Yes.
This, okay, it says, right. And so you can go online and look at this, and this will show you the 22 deficiencies that we had. Before that, these are the, you can also look this up, and these are the 40 recommendations. And so when you look this up, the 40 recommendations have been out from 2000, and then they were updated a few times. So ensure that you look for the updated version that says June 2019. Okay? And if like I spoke of recommendation 1, if you just scroll down, and yes, this is 134 pages, but you will need this as you go throughout the course. And so if you just look at, you know, this is a table of contents. It tells you that these are the policies and what the topics are. And so the 40 recommendations are based on policies and coordination, money laundering and confiscation, terrorist financing, preventative measures, customer due diligence, and what have you. So, you know, make sure that you have a copy of this. So that's the 40 recommendations. But Bahamas then put their laws in place. In 2017, the FATF came in and did a mutual evaluation. And so this document tells you what was missing, how 22 were deficient. And of course, we would have been paying attention to the news. And so after those recommendations would have been put in place and the laws, and if you ever look at one of the laws, you will see that the laws are 100, 200 pages, and they're not in layman's terms. So you always need legal to interpret it for you. And so what each regulator did was they created a guideline. And so they took out of those laws what was applicable to banking. And then the Securities Commission did the same thing, took out of what those laws was applicable to securities, the gaming board, the insurance commission, and so on. And so this central bank guideline for the remainder of this course, you should download this and keep this and be able to refer to it, because this puts that information from the laws in layman's terms, and it's easier to read. And so there's a table of contents. If you look at it, you'll see they talk about all the laws and the legislative framework. They talk about the penalties. They talk about what is money laundering and so on. And so central bank guideline is almost like the Bible that we go through. And you would find that while the Securities Commission and the Compliance Commission, they have their own guidelines, depending on what industry you work in the financial services sector. Most persons just copy from the central bank guidelines, and they have a reduced version. So you would see that the Securities Commission, where this is 85 pages, the Securities Commission has 40 pages. And then they have another document that just 14 pages. And so basically all those parts were taken from the central bank guidelines. But not only this guideline, but they also have other guidelines. But in terms of AML, this is the guideline for supervised financial institution on the prevention of money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism and proliferation financing. And again, the dates are important because these policies have been out from 2000 and they have been changed completely. And so you want to ensure that your last revised date, August 29, 2018, that you're using the most current version.
Can you send those to us to our email, please?
Sure, I can send them, but all of this is online, but I will copy these and just send them. And so you can easily access them. That's no problem at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so in terms of back, and I said all of that, I tell you all, you always have to wheel me back in as go south. I said all of that to give you an overview so you would know what crimes fall under money laundering. And so back in the day, of course, we only had like drug dealing, extortion, terrorism. However, there are currently today 21 crimes that fall under money laundering. And so, like I said, when the FATF came in, they said, nobody in the Bahamas has ever been charged with corruption or bribery. Nobody in the Bahamas has been ever charged with money laundering. Why is this? And so, do you only have law-abiding citizens? And somebody suggested that in the Bahamas, of course, we've heard that persons have been charged with fraud. Right? We've heard that before.
Yeah.
Probably stealing by reason of employment, right?
Yes.
And so that's what it's not that we didn't charge anybody at all, but most of those cases fell under fraud and stealing by reason of employment, which would carry a lesser charge. Okay? But again, after our mutual evaluation in 2017, we revamped all our laws, and just like the FATF said that there were 21 crimes that fell under money laundering, we also now consider 21 crimes under money laundering. So I don't know if you were recently listening to the news where I think Alma Campbell was charged for stealing from the Ministry of Tourism. And of course, all we heard on the news, we didn't hear stealing from the Ministry of Tourism, we had money laundering at the Ministry of Tourism. And so the terminology has changed. The same thing, I think CIDC was having a problem where all of the ATMs used to be down on the weekend. And what they found was that their technician that serviced the the ATMs along with one of the staff members was stealing the money from the ATMs instead of putting the money in. Anybody familiar with that case?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was all over the news, and they went out and they bought TVs and went on vacation. And so again, they were charged not with stealing by reason of employment or fraud. Again, they were charged with money laundering. Okay?
Okay.
Hello? That's
Yes,
good? We
yes.
clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Understood.
Okay, good. Is this working? Some of y'all are responding to me like y'all annoyed. Is this good?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
it is.
Not annoyed.
Like learning.
Oh, okay, good. I don't want y'all to fall asleep on me. So I just talked for a very long time. So again, back to we understand that money laundering has 21 crimes. And so therefore, those crimes, and I think if we look in our book on page, let me see the page it is, on page 10, yeah, you'll see the fraud, the theft, the counterfeiting, the drug dealing, the corruption and bribery, the breach of sanctions, the people trafficking, tax evasion, and smuggling, right? And so even, again, I know if you're listening to the news, our good philanthropist, Adrian Fox, has been charged with, I think, people trafficking. So again, when you see that comes across the news, I think the US government has a warrant out for his arrest. They put something out in the news and said that we want you to know that he is a fugitive. And so again, if he does attend court in the US, he will be charged with money laundering. Okay? And of course, we know that everybody familiar with FACA and CRS, have they, you at least know or have heard about it, is the Foreign Tax Act out of the US is FACA, and CRS is taxes for the rest of the world. And so there's tax evasion that falls under that. And so a lot of persons had their money in the Bahamas because they did not want to pay taxes in Canada. I think taxes go up as far as 35%. In the US, it varies too from 18 to 35%. And so a lot of Canadians or persons around the world to evade taxes, they open their accounts here. And so even now that we have signed into agreements with various countries saying that we will send you this information and ensure that your citizens pay the taxes to you. So if those citizens don't pay that tax, you will see that they will also be charged with tax evasion. Okay? So money laundering is essentially, we understand that all these different crimes fall under it. And so when we listen to the news, when they say these people are charged with money laundering, we'll understand how it's tied in, even if it's just stealing by reason of employment. But we know that there are 3 categories. And so what persons try to do is they go out, they commit a crime, and we are familiar with you know, the drug trade is very popular, at least back in the day in the Bahamas. And so they go out, they sell some drugs, and what they do is they want to clean this money or they want to wash it. And so what they do is they open up accounts in the Bahamas or at local institutions. And I used to work at Finco Robinson Road back in the early 2000s. And I was the manager there and the teller supervisor. And so we had a peanut guy and a car wash guy. And both of them came into the bank. They opened up accounts and they said, Ms. Bullard, you know, we want to start the save and we want you to help us. So I said, fine, you know, I can help you. There's no problem. And so what they did was they opened up accounts. And of course, we know that they would have established the profile. You know, when you go into the bank, you fill out forms, you give them your passport, your proof of address, what have you. And there are thresholds normally on that form. And so what those thresholds tell you is, I am going to deposit $50 a week every month. And so we should expect $200 at the end of the month to be on that account. So those thresholds tell you how much they're going to deposit per month and the frequency of their deposits. And so, and they say this account is for my savings. And so therefore, that establishes a profile. So therefore, anything outside of that profile now becomes an unusual or a suspicious transaction. So back to Finco, here it is. I open up the account for the peanut guy, and I said, how much money do you make per week? He said, well, I probably make about $200 a week, and I can save the $50. So I would have verified his income based on our conversation and knowing that that's reasonable for somebody selling peanuts. And so I opened the account, established the profile, and he said it was for savings. And so everything went well for about 2 or so years. And then one day he came and he said, Miss Bullet, I really get over. I really hit a lick. I have $10,000 to deposit. So I stood there and I said, really? What is hit? You know, Bahamian terminology. I hit a lick. What is hit a lick? And so he said, yeah, man, my boy worked out something for me. And I guess, you know, he, at this time we had built a relationship and he was comfortable, you know, my boy, let me move some stuff for him and I move it around. And when I made $10,000 and he just dropped it on my desk and say, yeah, put that on my account, Miss Bullet, you encouraged me to save, right? And so what should I have done? I did open the account, I did establish the profile, I did encourage him to save. Anybody?
It should have been recorded.
Yeah, a double check on where he might have got the money
The
from.
money from, yeah.
Right, so he told me where he get it from. He hit a lick.
Yeah, the next show, then you should have reported for suspicious activity.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Right, but this my friend, this my peanut guy. He sells peanuts to the bank.
It don't matter.
No, you still have to complete your ISAP.
Well,
Right,
in my experience, as of working as an account officer, I mean, these are the steps I would have taken. I would have probably still deposited because you already told me where these funds came from. So I can't just turn you away now. So I would have deposited it and then contact no, you can't make contact with the MLRO. I would have told my manager,
yeah.
and then we fill out the form or whatever. Because you can't just turn them away now. We already tell you that these are proceeds of crime. So
And then that would also been tipping off if you turn them away.
Exactly.
right. Okay, very good. Everybody on the right track and everybody knows. Okay, very good. But this my good peanut boy, how I supposed to feel about this? He can say, Miss Bullet, you encouraged me to open up this account and save just to send me to jail. What would that?
But sorry, Miss Bullet, I have a question based on what she responded. After knowing where he obtained the money from, knowing that it's by an illegal transaction, knowing that, and you still deposit the money, does that implicate you?
No,
you have to and
you
complete the report.
Again, how else? What else will the police have as their evidence that this actually happened? Because you can't just say that he came in the bank wanting to deposit. No, you actually have to take it so the police can have some evidence. And once you would have alerted your MLRO or your manager, then they would block that account. And so the police would, until the police sends a production order or some type of freezing order, they would use that as evidence. Okay, so you have to take it from him and you cannot tip him off. So one thing,
tip him off too, eh?
right, so 2 things in that transaction was failing to disclose. It's a crime. You could spend up to 12 years or $500,000 and tipping off the customer saying, hey, no, if I take this money from you, you will end up going to jail. You know what I mean? So no, take this and leave the bank. Tipping off. So then that's how you now become in collusion with the client and can be charged for tipping off. Okay, so there are real life scenarios. I want you to know with family members, with customers who have been customers for years, but when you sign up to take these positions, compliance is everybody's business and everybody has to abide by the law in the financial services institution. Okay, so that's what happens. There are 3 stages where the criminal activity, I went out, hit this lick, or did this drug deal for my friend, and I already have an account with the bank. Miss Bullet is my friend. she could take this money, and so she's going to place it into the financial system, and it's going to now be mixed with all the other legitimate money. Then layering, sometimes he would have, he said, well, I scared. You have the relationship with Miss Bullet. You go deposit the money, see if Miss Bullet could take it. Once Miss Bullet take it, just they could question me, because I don't work and I don't have a job. You could transfer it to my account. Okay, and so now that layer is designed to hide the true ownership of where the funds come from. So by the time we go to do the investigation, say we found this out, say one of my tellers took it and didn't realize that this was outside of his profile, took the money, deposited it, and by the time we got wind of it, because there should be savvy systems in the back, and compliance have all sorts of mechanism in place in this to alert us. So perhaps we would have gotten a report the next day. When we got the report the next day and saw that this happened, the teller didn't let us know. The money has already been transferred, and more than likely that person would have come and made the withdrawal, and so now he can go with that withdrawal slip and say, oh, I got this withdrawal from the Royal Bank of Canada. You know, so which means the money would be posed as clean money.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you take that same money, integration, and you go out and you pay school fees. So now it's integrated back into the system, and nobody can track that, you know, it actually came from the proceeds of a drug deal. Because a lot of times, unless you have a relationship with a client, you don't know. There are the bank line always out the door. You do 800-900 transactions a day. And so compliance is sitting in the background, and they have, like I say, very savvy mechanisms in the system that alerts them. And it's normally afterwards to tell them that, hey, this person said that they would deposit $50 a day. This transaction is outside of their profile. Right?
Right.
Right. Okay. Or in my intermediate class, we're discussing, because we're reading on the Egmont group typologies. And Egmont group is the group of FIUs where we file suspicious transactions, the financial intelligence unit, where we would file these suspicious transactions. And this semester, our topic is human trafficking, illicit pornography, and kidnapping. And it stemmed out of one person in the class saying that I work at Atlantis Casino, let's just say Atlantis. And in the nights, around 2 o'clock in the morning, I see these ladies coming into the casino with a very rich gambler, and they are non-coherent. I believe they are part of a human trafficking ring. And so one day he said, he asked the lady if she wanted a drink, and he received a napkin that said help. Right? So what would be your next steps? Because like I said, under money laundering now, and with the financial services system being condensed, we may work in the hotels as money laundering and reporting officers, as well as the gaming houses, and insurance. It may not only be the banks. So if you are, remember now, once you sign up for these jobs, compliance is everybody's business. You work in the casino, in the hotel, and you get this letter that says help. What would be your next step?
Well, I am currently employed at Bahama as a coupier. The next step would be to either call my pit boss or my supervisor, whichever one is closest to me, because not all the time a pit boss is in the pit. So I guess my supervisor.
Okay.
And I guess I'd show them the napkin, and we'd go to security and whatever else from there.
Okay. Okay, very, very good. Because one person, and this is why I selected it as a topic, one person said, oh, I'm minding my business. You know, there's no protection, and everybody is talk, and they will say, you know, I may be implicated and I don't want that, so I'm minding my business. And so what I told them is, when you sign up for these jobs, no matter whether your position is the compliance officer or the MLRO, or you work in this in the compliance department, it's everybody's business. Everybody is accountable. Everybody can now go to jail if they fail to disclose, or if they do not or if they tip off. So there's no minding my business. Sorry, go ahead.
So I said there's a duty to report.
Yeah, right,
Report up,
correct.
exactly, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So don't take any position in the financial services sector where you will be afraid to disclose, or you will tell the people, oh no, the bank will freeze this money, take this money away. Okay. So this is the only way to mitigate this risk. If everybody is trained, everybody knows what they are required to do, and we can avoid these criminals infiltrating our financial system by placing the money in the system, by layering it and then integrating it back into society. Okay?
Yes.
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 Okay. Okay, good. So any questions regarding money laundering, what it is, any crimes affected, you know, and if we look at, no, our question is on terrorist financing. No, the first question, but it's not due until, let me just share the screen. This first question is, discuss how money is laundered at the placement stage. And again, because, you know, 7 essays is required in your final exam, as well as if you become the MLRO, and you do have to fill out this SDR form. There's a whole page where you write an essay as to what happened. Okay. And so a good way to, you know, I know some of us are just taking a refresher. We haven't been to school for a very long time. And then some of us just know what to do. So that's good. And so what we want to do is when we write, answer these questions, we want to avoid plagiarism. We are testing not memory, but understanding. And so you don't just go online and Google a piece and find it and then copy and paste it. We don't want that. We don't want regurgitation of law, right? And so the best way to start an essay with the introduction is a little bit of history. You know, how was money laundering established? And like I said, back in, you could use always the Bahamas. Back in 2000, we were blacklisted, and then the framework was introduced and what have you. And then there are three phases of money laundering. And then you give an example of placement. And just like how I gave the example of the peanut boy coming in and, you know, depositing the $10,000, that's placement, and you want to explain that story in detail, and the essay is worth 10 points. So you want an introduction, a body, and conclusion. And the best way, like I said, is to start with history, and then you go into who, what, when, why, and how. You answer those questions, and then you should have a essay. The essay shouldn't be more than 3 pages. It's only worth 10 points. If even that, I'd limit 3 pages. And some people have been giving me 9 and 10 pages in my past class. So 3 pages, who, what, when, why, and how. Was that clear?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and then again, if you do quote, you can use quotes in short, because we want to practice when we get to ICA. ICA has an entire paper on referencing. So we don't want to just write out, the governor said that 22 FATF recommendations was deficient. No, we want to say, according to the Nassau Guardian of this date or what have you, or we want to put in the footnotes where we would have gotten the information. So no points for copy and paste. I normally hand your essay back and say too much copy and paste. So no points for copy and paste. No points for plagiarism. In ICA, there's a system that you upload your essays to, and your essays, they have this system that tells you 20% of your paper came from this side, 20% from that side. And once you get to 50% of your essay being copy and paste, they don't even give you a grade. So in order to pass, the AML portion is 3 essays, 3,500 words, and they normally give you a topic that's like developing, or that you would need to go into the newspapers and do research for. And the same thing for governance, risk, and compliance. 3 essays, 3,500 words, 25 to 3,500 words. And again, like I say, don't feel overwhelmed. It's achievable. It's been done. And a lot of people are happy that they, took the course. Okay. So be
Okay.
good. And there are lots of descriptions and information in the book. You can go online and Google all of the pictures, and it'll tell you just the cycles what people use to infiltrate the system, how they use wires, how they set up shell companies, what they do in domestic banks. Okay, so there's various ways to use the system. So in your spare time, you can, go online and peruse the various pictures that are in the book. Okay, we
Yeah.
good. We good with money laundering because we're gonna go on now to chapter 2, the terrorist financing.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so understanding terrorist financing. Now, I have some men on here, and I haven't heard them at all. I want to make sure that they're not asleep. I just got to make sure, check on the guys. Mr. Gibson, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
You're here. Okay. Are you getting your 10 points for participation today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. What about Marco?
Yeah.
You're there? Okay, good. I'm so happy you could join us. I know we had some difficulty. Your emails were bouncing back. Okay, good. So we want to hear from you. We have heard the lady speak. So now we want to hear from you to make sure that, everything is clear and we understand what's going on. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So terrorism. Anybody know what terrorism is? Anybody know if the Bahamas has to worry about terrorism, or this is something for the rest of the world and not for us?
All of the world.
All of the world.
In the world.
Because they
Okay.
said, Miss Bullet, and when
Yeah.
we had the 2011, not 2011, the 2011 when the Twin Towers, it was proposed that one of the terrorists was in Grand Bahama.
Right.
The
Right.
hotel. So we do.
Very good.
Exactly.
Very good. So yes, we may have forgotten, but back in 2001, September 11, there was a third plane that I think was supposed to go into the White House. And that plane purportedly would have left from Grand Bahama, because the terrorists flew into Grand Bahama, landed in Grand Bahama, but our immigration officers were vigilant. They did not have the correct visa, and immigration put them right back and sent them back to where they came from. So aren't we happy that back in 2000, now this is 2020, back in 2000, we normally shed a negative light on our government employees, but back in 2000, our immigration was vigilant enough to stop them. Because had that plane left from the Bahamas and went into the White House, we would have still been suffering from that, right?
Yes.
And so therefore, very kudos to the immigration department from back in 2000. So if they were that vigilant, sorry, go ahead.
Also too with that, in Grand Bahama, it was said too that the taxi cab driver, because of the communications that they were having in the back seat when he was taking the passengers, he also reported it to the authorities.
Okay, so excellent. So what if the taxi cab and immigration know what's right, difference between right and wrong, and could have been able to listen to those conversations and prevent that? Very good. Definitely us in the financial services sector, we have to be vigilant. We have to know what is outside of the norm, and we have to not be afraid to disclose. So yes, so we have to, like somebody said earlier, it's not the rest of the world, because these terrorists are looking for vulnerable countries to infiltrate. And we have all those out islands and those small airports, and some of those airports are international airports, so you don't even have to come to Nassau to disembark. You can fly directly in from Miami or wherever you want in the world into Eleutheris Airport or Exomas Airport. And so good that they were vigilant way back in 2000. So you can imagine today They're on their P's and Q's, and they're ensuring that they protect our borders. So very good. So yes, we do have to worry about terrorism. And so a lot of times we talk about terrorism and we talk about, September 11th, because that, was known around the world. But I want us to also, and I didn't mention this in your homework, but when you do your homework, the mandatory piece that's due, I want you to also include domestic terrorism. And in the United States in 2019, they had more than 365 cases of domestic terrorism. And that is very, very alarming. And so, it was the shootings at Walmart, it was the shootings at the bars, shootings at various, you know, family oriented places. And so where a mass amount of shooting at churches, where a mass amount of persons were killed. And so, they normally say whatever happens to America sneezes and we catch a cold. And so therefore, in the past, we have not had a lot of domestic terrorism, but recently too, I'm not certain if it was last year or this year, but in Montel Heights, we did have a baby shower that can fall under terrorism because 14 persons were shot. Anybody recall that?
Yes.
Yes.
And also in Foxhill too, where they had that shootout where several persons were killed.
Right.
Park.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of that falls under domestic terrorism. And so in your essays, I don't only want you to focus on, September 11th or all of the terrorists from the East. I want you to chime in on domestic terrorism because, the awareness needs to be created. And we need to focus on that. So by the time it hits our shores, and I mean, God forbid, the U.S. had 365, more than 365 domestic terrorism incidents in 2019, and that's very, very alarming, right? So like I say, when you write your essays, please touch on domestic terrorism as well. Okay? Just keep that in mind. Okay. Right. So in terms of terrorism, the objective is to intimidate a population or compel a government or an international organization to do or abstain from doing any act. And so terrorism, they have various ways of financing. They have various objectives. And this is what your question asks you. Why do they do this? What are their objectives? And their objectives is training. They need weapons. They need to travel. They need a safe haven. They need to recruit, right? And just like this is training now, we're in, and it is expensive. I'm certain that their training is expensive as well. And in terms of their weaponry that they need, expensive. And so they need to generate this money. And so where do they get their money from? And we're gonna read, and I hope one of the guys will volunteer to read, because we're gonna read another case at the back of the book that talks about how they get this money. And believe you me, some of you are going to be very, very surprised because they get this money from state patrons. They get it from activities in failed states. They get it from robbery, smuggling, and gambling. And the difference between money laundering and terrorist financing is that money laundering is normally committed by only illegitimate acts. Terrorist financing is by legitimate acts and illegitimate acts, because you do have some sympathizers. You see when there are serial killings in the United States, that when they go and check their Facebook pages, these people were sympathizers of ISIS or lovers of Islam, and they wanted to, help them. And so when we get to the readings at the back of the book, you will see, how they raise a lot of their money. And so in your essay, that's what I want you to focus on, how they raise their money and what they raise their money for. And so back to network, everybody knows bin Laden. Everybody would have heard of bin Laden, and everybody should be familiar with September 11, how gruesome it was, and how, what really happened. But let's just think about it. Let's just think about an aspect of that's related to networking. 10 years after, bin Laden did September 11, he survived. And he did not survive living on as a homeless person. He lived in a mansion. He had wives, concubines, children. He would have been eating some of the best meals. He also needed insulin, which is very expensive. Most people have to get on the drug program if you need insulin every day to ensure that the government subsidize that for you to be able to afford it. So how did Bin Laden live for 10 years not working after, he was charged with these crimes? Because I might just be a little upset, but I always think about me. And I said, my parents love me, but if I told them right now I lose my job and I need to come home with my children and my husband and my concubines, my mommy would ask me, how long you gonna be here for? She would buy me the newspaper every day and she would say, you applying for these jobs? And I definitely wouldn't live comfortably with children and husbands. And I wouldn't be eating the best. Well, she would say, no, no, no. You need to pack up and leave and find somewhere else to live. That's the same for everybody else. Deandra, you could live
No.
comfortably. If you commit this crime, you could go live comfortably at home with husbands and children.
No.
No, not at all. Okay, so how did Bin Laden do this? How? Tell me, Laura, you can speak yet? Savannah?
You hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. So how did Bin Laden do this? I need to know the secret.
He had people in every sector, businesses, home, on his side. Everyone was just, I guess, gathering persons together, persons who worked in bank, persons who on the road, children, everyone that could have made it easier for him to commit this act. He did that.
So in other words, he had a very strong network.
It was strong, and I guess he told them that, hey, if you do this, you're going back to Allah, and I know that their religion is very strong, whereas Allah is everything to them. So it's like they're sacrificing themselves just for an intimate cause is not actually there.
Right. Okay.
Very
good.
Also with terrorism, he probably promised college students who probably couldn't afford to go. He probably promised them to send them to school. He probably had dirt on some of the top people in the United States, and he probably used that to gain whatever he needed to gain.
Okay, very good. Okay, very good. You're on the right track. What about you, Thompson? Thompson, I haven't heard from you today. Tamika?
Hi, yes, I spoke earlier, but I agree he did or must have had a strong network, and I would also include in that network persons in the healthcare profession. He had to, because you mentioned the insulin and so forth. So he did use his resources in all aspects and in all industries in order to help assist his mission.
Okay, very good, very good. Brenda, any comments?
I concur with what everyone is saying, and also to, of course, that his with the funding that he had a lot of funds that to able to do that, and the network was like we said before is very strong, and the fact that he was trained in the U.S. as well, so he understood the training and understanding how the whole system worked to be able to infiltrate it. So he had a study of the system and knowing exactly how he could infiltrate to ensure that he was successful in his outcome.
Okay, so very, very good, everybody on the right track. And so this is the importance of networking. Okay, I don't condone anything that he did. It was the most gruesome thing that could ever happen, and I agree with everything that has happened to him now. But like I said, I always try to look at any positives from any situation, and that's what I take as a positive, building a very strong network. And so from that, I try, that's why I said, people may say, oh, I'm not a people's person, I'm an introvert, I don't want to attend Toastmasters, I don't want to attend Kawanas. I don't like people or whatever. But if you're gonna make it in this world, trust me. And again, like I said, you're not looking for a boyfriend or girlfriend. You're not looking for godparents of your children. You are building your professional network, and you, at the end of at the end of meeting all these people and having the right people in your groups, you should be able to, if no God forbid, you will never turn to criminality, but imagine what you can do, in terms of leadership and in what the Bahamas needs and what we are trying to accomplish, okay, to make a difference in this country. So we will use our network for good, not for criminality. Okay?
Agreed.
Okay, very good. So in terms of, we want to read how did they generate some of this money, because a lot of people think it is expensive. Terrorism is not expensive. I mean, the September 11 cost $30 million. I think there's a excerpt in the book, and the funding of the 9/11 hijackers, and the full story is online. You can Google that and get the full story. I think it's about 18 pages, and it will tell you exactly how they spend that $30 million. But a lot of times we just have people, like I said, just flying to Syria to be suicide bombers, because like LaRhoda said, they become lovers of Allah. And in the some parts of the Muslim religion, they believe that they become martyrs, because they believe that once they would have, given their self for their religion, their families will be taken care of. They will get gold and lots of women when they get to heaven. So, it's, from just like we believe in Christianity, they were probably born in the Muslim religion, and so these are their beliefs. So I want to hear from the guys. I know Shivano, you can't read for us right now, so we'll save you till next week. But Marco, can you read for us, or not yet? You want to get more familiar first? Marco, okay. Sorry, I can't hear you, Marco. Okay.
What page is that?
Okay, so let's look at case 3. This is at the back of your book.
Case 3 or case 2?
Case 3, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, case 4. Let's go to case 4. It should be the last one, the last colorful page at the back of your book. Yeah, so everybody at case 4, how does ISIS terrorists finance their attacks?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm calling you Marco, but I think your name is Delmaro. Oh, sorry. I'll get the names by the 3rd class.
No problem. I look for it.
Okay. You reading for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
How do ISIS terrorists finance their attacks? Meeting Turkey 2 days after the horrific terrorist attacks in Paris, leaders of the G20 countries issued a statement condemning recent Islamic in Iraq and Syria ISIS attacks and reaffirmed their commitment to combat terrorism. More specifically, the group of industrial nations recommitted itself to tackling the financing channels of terrorism, which begs the question, how does ISIS finance its international operation? ISIS is primarily financed through a wide array of criminal activities, large and small, centered in the parts of Syria and Iraq that are under the group's control. ISIS steals livestock, sells foreign fighter passports, taxes minorities and farmers and truckers, runs a sophisticated extortion racket, kidnaps civilians for ransom payments, loose antiquities, and much more. It also makes more, about $40 million a month from illicit oil sales alone. but these sources primarily support the group of expensive state building, war-fighting enterprises back home, ranging from paying teachers salaries, collecting the garbage, to bribing tribal leaders and paying firefighters salaries. There is, however, an entrepreneurial self-financing model that ISIS recruits and supporters around the world have been encouraged to use to fund either their travel to ISIS-controlled land or perhaps their attacks in the West. While it is too soon to state with any certainty how the Paris attacks were funded, the likelihood is that they were funded in whole or in part through local criminal activities or otherwise. Legal activities such as the use of state welfare benefits or taking out a loan. None of these would surprise since authorities have been tracking the use of such funding schemes by prospective foreign terrorist fighters looking to join ISIS. Indeed, earlier this year, a financial action task force report identified several potential revenue streams for would-be foreign terrorist fighters would include robbery, drug trafficking, various social service payments, and unpaid loans. Some potential plotters or travelers took on short-term jobs to raise the money they needed, while others simply drew on their savings or student loan accounts.
Okay, so let me just
examples.
interject there, please, Maki. So let me just say, like, right now we're in a pandemic and social service, you know, the government said we can go, and some of us may have gotten laid off. And so the government said we can go to national insurance and collect $200 a week, and we could go to social service and get food stamps. So could you imagine now, we have been laid off. We get this funding from national insurance, and then we get the food stamps from social service, and we go and then send this to support ISIS. Nikki, would you do that?
No.
No, but this is what is happening. So it's not just persons, you know, who has a lot of money and is donating. Persons, they don't even have the money, but because of their beliefs, using the same money from social service during the pandemic to send to ISIS. And that's how serious it is. Okay, Leandro, he mentioned that. Sorry, go ahead.
Ms. Bullitt, so this is basically telling you that before you even decide to contribute to certain
charities.
Yeah, charities. You have to really do your research, because it could be an incident where you're donating money to a sponsor and they're using that as a way to gain money.
Right. And so very good, Deandra, one of the FATF recommendations that we were deficient in is that our charities were not registered. And so, of course, there was a bunch of hoorah. Oh, why are we putting our charities, why are we making the Ranfully Home declare who their board is and document and come into the bank and open up these accounts and send all this information to the government. And of course, we know when we opening up company accounts, it's a horrendous process. Why are we making them get a business license? And this is why, because we want to ensure that these institutions are who they say they are. And if they are not, we should have some information to be able to track them. We gone are the days when we can say, oh, that's the Ranfully Home. Oh, Mr. Roberts used to be my principal, so yeah, we're giving him the money. We don't know. We don't know about where they actually spend the money and how they spend it. You know, so they have to keep proper records, and we have to ensure that even though Mr. Roberts was my principal, he is not a lover of ISIS and sending this money to them. You know, and so people got upset when the FATF enforced that the Bahamas register their charities. And so that was one of the updates that had to be done in 2018. And so there's a registry now with charities that they consider official. So any one of the charities who did not register and meet the requirements are not considered verified. And so therefore they encourage you not to donate. So if you want to help, if you want to donate, you can spend some time with them and ensure that they get the correct documents in place so they can be considered a legitimate charity. Okay, so
Travado commented and said during the Hurricane Dorian, charities had to be registered as NGOs.
NGOs.
okay, yes, yeah, non-government organizations say. Yes, Shabaro. Yes, very good. Okay, Shabaro. So very good. So Shabaro, you go into the bank to get this loan to fund ISIS. Instead of paying your kids' school fees, you go into the bank to get a loan. Can you hear us? Can you speak?
I can hear you. Yes, I can speak.
Okay, so you go into the bank to get this loan, and you will say it's for my children's school fees. And of course, the bank will say, oh, yes, of course, good customer. But you're sending this money to ISIS?
Oh no, I won't do that.
Okay, but this is what is happening. And so again, another nuisance when we go to the bank, they say, go and get us an invoice from the school, and we are gonna make this check payable to the school, and we mad. Why you can't put $5,000 in my hand? Why? I had more money than that before, the hurrahs and the hoorays that we give to the bank staff. But these are the reasons why all this is in place to ensure that Shabaro does not say, I'm supposed to pay this school fee, but I have this cash and I'm a lover of ISIS and I want to fund Saddam, not Saddam, but Bin Laden is in my network and he is, done a lot for me, and so I must help him out. Right? Okay, this is what it's saying. Okay, good. So just so everybody is clear, so far everybody is clear?
So Ms. Bullard, for people that work inside the banks, if he was to go to a bank and wanted a loan to pay his child's school fee, and he started complaining when they told him they'll write out the check to the school, would the bank see that as a red flag?
Well, it depends on who the customer is. It's on a case-by-case basis. They could perhaps go look at his profile and say, okay, he has done this every year. Or they could say, okay, since you feel that this is an issue, bring us a receipt from the school. But sometimes they do see it as a red flag. And that's why I think they normally tell you up front. If you want more than 5,000 or 10,000 cash, I think the Bahamas, the threshold for deposits is 15,000. So they normally give you some leverage between 5 and 15,000. Anything over 15,000, you're not going to get cash. It varies. It depends on the appetite of the bank that you go to. But
So
if
anything over $15,000, anything over $15,000, you cannot get in cash.
Not in cash, they ask you to produce a invoice, and they will pay the invoice. And it, like I said, it depends on which institution you visit.
I heard a situation with a bank, a reputable bank in the Bahamas. I don't want to call the name, but they went to they got $20,000 actually, and they wanted to deposit it into, a credit union in the Bahamas, and they got that money in cash instead of having like a manager's check, or it's not like that. So how is that possible?
Well, again, the law doesn't say you cannot do it. The law just says anything over that amount, you have to declare the source of funds. And so he would have had to walk in, again, special customer, it may be within his profile. He may have opened an account and said, I need cash deposits or cash withdrawals of this amount because I pay my payroll, so they would have already verified him. And then when he would have gone to when he would have gone to the credit union, then the credit union will fill out a form that's called a declaration source of fund. So there is a workaround for it, but in most cases, it shouldn't be more than $15,000 cash. Go ahead, Natasha.
I was going to say it depends on the nature of the transaction. Because like you said, it probably was a deposit account. And because he's moving the funds from one place to the next, or like you said, payroll, he would be given the live cash and not a check. That's his fund. So he could argue it and get his cash and don't have to walk out with a check. But you have to know your customer, and you have to think about the nature of the transaction.
Right, and it has to be in his established profile.
Right.
At risk, right. So all of that would have been documented already on file. And that's just it. The rules are there. and there are workarounds, and there are instances where you know, there are exceptions, and the exceptions are if you fill out the declaration source of funds, then fine. If your profile is already established and you know, it's like when you go into the bank to open up an account, there are categories that you choose for. Most of us say we can deposit between $1,000 and $5,000 a month. Some people say 300,000, 400,000. Where I work in Royal Bank Wealth, to open up an account with us was $250,000. So it just depends on the established profile of the customer, and anything outside of that established profile is then considered unusual.
Yeah, but it is unusual
Okay.
too. If you know, yeah, hello.
Hello.
I said it is unusual too if you know your member, let's say at the credit union, you know this member don't automatically all of a sudden bring that some amount of money one time on a regular basis. They probably come like and given the nature of the person's job as well, they're government worker. So they probably bring in like, or put in their salary, they're like $2,000 or $100, $300, $500, $600, however the amount is, but all of a sudden one time you bring in whole $20,000 in cash, and you enter the manager, escalate that, and they said, oh, it came from a reputable bank, we can accept that.
No, it's not by word of mouth. It has to be documented. So there's an internal form. Pardon?
They only came with a receipt.
Yeah, so if they come to with a receipt from Fidelity and it can show that they withdrew cash, then and they fill out a form, I am declaring the source of funds came from Royal Bank, and the receipt is attached, that's declaring the source of funds. So that's sufficient.
Sometimes they may ask you to also bring a mini statement to show maybe a month or two or maybe a year sometimes to see the activity on the account to ensure that it's not from illegal activities as well.
What about, sorry, what about cases?
Pardon?
If you're working in compliance, can you block that account just to, you know, to verify things?
Yeah, you can.
You can put a hold on the account while you investigate it.
Right.
Right, but again, you don't want to tip off, and you don't want to, you know, you don't want the bank to be liable for anything. So we always, you know, people like to say, oh, it's compliance. No, compliance does not speak to clients, and nobody should be saying it's compliance. So we should find a way to say that, you know, we're processing something, or a lot of times if something is expired on your account, to say your passport expired or your proof of address, you know, they expire every 3 or 6 months. You could always say, we need an updated proof of address, and that would buy you some time to do your investigation. But we have to move away from people saying compliance or have it on hold or compliance investigating. Okay, so find a amicable way to you know, buy some time, but don't say compliance. Okay, because that's a form of, you know, tipping off, and that could alert them to say, what is compliance checking for? Okay, so very good. I'm very happy everybody seems to be abreast and know what's going on, and very good, and still awake. Very good. Okay, thank you so much. Delmaro, do we want another reader? Anybody else wants to volunteer?
I can do it.
Okay, go ahead, Mackenzie. Boy, you're really good. You're 10 points on the first, 10% on the first class. Excellent. I'm encouraged. Very good.
Okay. Consider a few examples. Michael.
Don't worry about the pronunciation of the name. I can't even pronounce it.
Okay.
Just say Michael.
Consider a few examples. Michael, who murdered a Canadian soldier before attacking Canadian Parliament buildings in October 2014, worked at one of the Alberta oil fields to raise money for his attempt to travel to Syria. Petty crime has the potential to bring in sufficient funds for a homegrown attack or transportation to a combat zone as well. There is the case of the 15-year-old boy in Montreal who held up a convenience store with a knife, stealing some $2,200 to pay for his plane ticket out of Canada. The teen's father turned him into the police after finding the money in his son's bag. Or take the 4 men arrested in February in Brooklyn, NY, for attempting to join ISIS. Some of their funds were supplied by a supporter-operated mall kiosk selling kitchenware and cell phones. According to the indictment, a round trip
And you all know when we go to Miami, right?
Mm-hmm.
McKinsey? No, McKinsey, and they're saying, you know, when we go to Miami, and those people will run after us in the morning and say, buy this new product, buy this new product.
Oh, yes.
Yes, yes, damn. Okay, good. Continue.
All right. According to the indictment, a round trip ticket from Istanbul cost a mere $598. One of the defendants expected that he would not need to bring more than 400 to travel to Syria because he would not have met any concerns in the land of the Islamic State. In Britain, in Metropolitan Police's Counterterrorism Command unit has noticed several cases where, what is this word?
Jihadists.
Jihadists finance themselves through state-funded welfare payments. More recently, Yahya Rashid, he used his student loans and educational grants to cover the travel costs for himself and 4 friends to join ISIS in Syria via Morocco and Turkey. Closer to home, Christopher Cornell, who stands accused of plotting to detonate pipe bombs at the US Capitol and shoot people as they ran away, simply saved money to conduct his attack, according to the FBI. In several cases, including the shooting in Canada, individuals who traveled to Syria was thwarted turned to deadly attacks and who at home instead, easily redirecting transportation funds toward homegrown acts of terrorism. And while ISIS governance and military expenses in Syria and Iraq are high, carrying out an attack in the West is inexpensive. Take, for example, the January attacks in Paris against Charlie Hebdo magazine, a police officer, and kosher grocery. Amadi, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, claimed to have helped the Karachi brothers with their project by giving them a few €1,000 so they could buy what they needed to buy. The 2 Karachi brothers reportedly received $20,000 from Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. But the rocket-propelled grenade launcher and a oh Lord have mercy, the Kalashnikov automatic assault rifles used by the Karachis cost less than $6,000. Kulabli himself reportedly used a false income statement to take out a €6,000 loan to finance the purchase of weapons for the attacks. And while Akrab claimed responsibility for the Karachi's attack, Kulabli self-identified with ISIS. Another possible funding stream available to terrorist operatives in the West is old school, abuse of charity. In light of the catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Syria and Iraq, the FATF warned earlier this year that the possibility of abusing charities by ISIL, another name for ISIS, or its affiliates directly or indirectly for fundraising or funding activities need to be recognized. Over the past year, European countries have taken action against several charities over terror finance suspicions. Last November, French authorities shut down Pearl of Hope, a charity that claimed to promote the health and education of 6 Syrian and Palestinian toddlers, arresting 2 people on charges of financing terrorism. According to investigators, while Pearl of Hope did deliver food and medical supplies, the group was also using such deliveries as a front to funnel covert funds to jihadist groups and had links to the Nusra Front. About a dozen other charities were under surveillance at the same time, some on suspicion of ties to ISIS. To date, these cases involve raising funds for terrorist activities in Syria and Iraq, but the potential for skimming small amounts of money off the top for terrorist travel or operations has authorities concerned. There is one other way attacks like those in Paris may have been financed, in whole or in part, with funds from ISIS itself. Unlike previous attacks, which were almost all lone offender plots inspired by ISIS, the Paris attacks were foreign-directed operations planned outside France as part of what CIA Director John Brennan recently described as ISIS external operations agenda. This agenda is reportedly led by senior ISIS official Abu Mohammed al-Adani, whose recorded messages calling for attacks in the West appear to correlate to the increased operational activities of ISIS operatives in Europe. Late last year, as European foreign terrorist fighters affiliated with ISIS began trickling back to Europe, some, it is now believed, to carry out attacks. Al-Adani issued this directive to ISIS followers: if you can kill a disbelieving American or European, especially the spiteful and filthy French, then rely on Allah and kill him in any manner or way, however it may be. According to former French counterterrorism judge Jean-Louis Bruguière, Abdelhamid al-Baoud, the purported ringleader of the Paris attacks and several earlier plots, would almost certainly have been in contact with senior ISIS officials about plots like these.
Okay, Mackenzie, thank you so much for that. Do we want somebody just to end it for us? One last reader?
I'll read.
Okay.
I'll read.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure. And in the event that ISIS leader wanted to send funds from their war chest to finance operations abroad, there are several ways they could do, even as ISIS has been largely cut off from the formal financial system. The Central Bank of Iraq, for example, has instructed financial institutions to prevent wire transfers to and from banks located in ISIS-held areas, and international banks with regional branches in these areas have relocated their staff. But there are other ways ISIS could send funds if it chose to do so, beyond having returned foreign terrorist fighters carry small sums of money back to Europe on their person. First, despite the Iraq government's efforts, officials remain concerned that Assad regime in Syria has not placed any restrictions on the banks in ISIS-held areas. And even in Iraq, the FATF warns some bank branches in ISIS areas may maintain links to international financial systems. Although many international institutions likely cut ties to these banks, FATF found that the latter are still able to liaison with certain unnamed jurisdictions. ISIS has also engaged in backdoor banking, assessing banks with ties to the international financial system just outside the areas it controls. Dutch officials report that foreign terrorist fighters who arrived in Syria or Iraq were using their European debit cards linked to their national bank accounts when withdrawing money from ATMs in areas near where ISIS operates. Beyond the formal banking system, ISIS can also send and receive funds through nearby foreign money remitters. Finnish authorities report that a common method of getting funds to foreign fighters once they arrive in Syria or Iraq is to send it via money remitters who have agents operating in border areas close to ISIS-held territory. Dutch authorities have noted similar activity, and in regard, it's highly likely that intermediaries transport cash to areas near territory occupied by ISIS. ISIS operatives have come up with other schemes as well. For example, Saudi authorities report to FATF that individuals associated with the group's alleged donors via Twitter and told them to establish contact via Skype. The operatives then asked these donors to purchase international prepaid cards, examples, mobile phone cards or store credit, and send them the card numbers via Skype. The information would eventually reach a follower near ISIS-held territory in Syria, who would then sell it and take the resulting cash to the group. While these cases all involve the movement of funds to Syria and Iraq, they could be used just as easily to send funds in the opposite direction. Whether the Paris attackers financed their operations through criminal or other activities in Europe, or whether they were funded in whole or in part of ISIS funding from leaders in Syria and Iraq, the fact remains that the attacks were certainly inexpensive. Following the money trail after the fact can be extremely effective. Investigate an intelligence tool to map out convert networks, identify other operatives, and prevent follow-up attacks. But the financial intelligence tool is no panacea. At the end of the day, such small sums of money are easy to come by and can facilitate painful, successful attacks.
Okay, very, very good. Okay, so any questions coming out of that reading? We knew all of this. This was, we were aware of this is how terrorism is financed, or we thought that there were just like sympathizers and people just donating large sums of money.
I didn't know it was this in depth.
I
Right.
was about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I had an idea, but I didn't realize it got that deep. You know?
Right, because you cannot imagine now giving your NIV contribution or your social service contribution. You can't imagine your child getting a full scholarship, and instead of using the scholarship money, they send it to ISIS. Could you imagine going in the bank to get a loan?
I want to know what they used to tell them to persuade them into doing stuff like that.
Convince them to do this, right? No, but
Yeah.
like somebody said earlier, I think it was Lorota, just how we believe in Christianity, they believe in Islam. Yeah, and so therefore,
that is
you know,
true.
if they believe that if they do these things, think about it, life is very tough, and most men feel pressured to take care of their mothers as well as their own family. And so they really feel that, hey, I'm going to sacrifice myself so my mother and my siblings, as well as my wife and my children, can have a better life. So it's a lot of brainwashing and a lot of this, you were born into this. And so it's very difficult to think that this is not the right thing to do.
As simple as us, we grow up going to church and paying tithes. It's the same thing for them.
Right.
So you can imagine they taking their hard-earned money to support. Like how every Sunday we carry our tithes to church. Like they committed to supporting these organizations.
Right, and you know, some of us even, we can't tell you, don't pay your tithes.
Oh.
Right? We know that the Bible says 10%, and even now, I took my tithes and I gave it to Walter Hanchel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gave it to them, and so I'm not even certain that they are the registered ones, but I do see him out there feeding those people every week, and so therefore, I decided to make a donation to them. But can I say that they are feeding the people and not, sending some money to ISIS? I can't verify that. No. But like I say, now that they're required to be registered, when the regulators and the auditors go into these financial institutions, they are going to have that on their agenda to check these accounts. And when they look at the financial statements, they're going to want to see that, hey, this money was going to purchase food and stuff, and any money going overseas, they're going to verify to ensure that, this money isn't going overseas to finance any criminality or, any type of terrorism. Okay, so good. So very good. We learned something, and we saw that how far people will go, and what their beliefs are, and we always, every time we go to Miami, we see those kiosk people running us down. Hey, come and try this new product, and sometimes we are, especially ones I've seen on TV, we are all excited, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying to stay away from them completely, but perhaps ask some questions to ensure that this new product that you're investing in does not support terrorism. And again, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying I did a few AML and terrorism financing little refreshers while I was working in the bank, and they told us as simple as, you see the foreigners on the side of the road selling little items could be terrorist financing and stuff like that.
Right. right? And so we see downtown. I don't know if y'all
Yeah.
walked downtown recently. These foreign people, you know, they selling some type of lotion or cream for your face. But what has been suspicious to me is that they have 6 locations or more. And I'm thinking, is this cream
Exactly.
really that popular?
Or they
What y'all
own
think?
most of
Y'all
the
know what I
jewelry
mean?
stores. A lot of
Yeah.
the Indians
Yeah.
own a
There's a
lot
lot
of
of
jewelry
Indians,
stores.
especially that one by the old scans.
Yeah, yeah. Is it possible? You know, because I was like, man, this was the first time I saw one location. And then as I walked downtown, 6 other people handing this cream out to me the same piece. So I say, hey, how y'all get 6 locations? Like, this cream really this popular down here? So, a little bit suspect to me. A little bit suspect. But, you know, don't think that these things can't happen to us. Don't think that nobody is, you know, trying to infiltrate our family islands or even right here in Nassau. So, you know, always be alert and, you know, again, we could only mitigate risk. We cannot eliminate it. So don't kill yourself trying to, you know, eliminate it because it's impossible. The key to this is that you be organized and you document every decision that you make. And sometimes you're going to make the wrong decision and then you can correct it and make the right one. And sometimes you need to correct it 2 or 3 times. Just don't live in fear and don't be afraid and don't feel like, you know, we are still human beings and these hackers and people who they just like how we're investing our time in training, they invest in their time. Some of them lock up in their room all day. This pandemic is a joke for them because they don't come outside, you know. They stay in their room all day and try to infiltrate systems. So, you know, don't be hard on yourself, but like I said, be organized, document your decisions, form your libraries, and network, get some help. I was at a seminar just dealing with FACA and CRS that it relates to the tax issues in the Bahamas. And I sat right next to one of the MLROs at another bank, and she just said, oh, do you know that we are being sued because we didn't have a clause in our general terms and condition? And I said, really? Which one was that? And she said, oh, when I get back to the office, I'll send it to you. And she sent it to me, and then I realized that we didn't have that term in there. So, you know, immediately I added that, and so that saved us from being sued. You know, so there's a lot of little tips and information you can get that won't cost so much if you develop your network. And again, we're not only looking for persons that can help us, but also that we want to help our definitely mentor the next leader coming up behind us. Okay. So let's look at this question because we want to ensure, like I said, everybody should get 100% on their exam, and from the feedback that sorry, not on the exam, but 100% on the essay, and from the feedback that I'm getting, I'm very comfortable. Everybody's on the right track. We are familiar with the terminology and we know what to do. So I expect everybody to get 100%. I'm already excited just to see your contributions. So let's take a stab at this question number 2 that's mandatory for everybody, and I know that everybody's gonna have it in on Friday at 11:59, and nobody will be getting a reduction in their grade. So discuss the objectives of terrorists and describe 3 ways in which terrorists fund their activities. Everybody can see my screen? Or no?
No, I can't see it.
Okay, hold on. You know, old people, I get in the hang of this. You know, I won't send anymore without IT's assistance. Okay, so there we go. Question 2. Question 2, anybody want to take a stab at this? Somebody give me the introduction, and then somebody else give me one. We need at least, does it say 3? 3 ways. It does say 3. So I need one person with the introduction, and of course, you know, we said we'd start with history or a little background, and then we have 3 ways, and so 3 other people could give me 1 way, and then we'll stop there and we'll leave the conclusion to you, because of course the conclusion again is just repeating the introduction and saying what you conclude from what you wrote. Okay, so who wants to take a stab at the introduction? Just a few words, nothing.
I'll take a stab. So the first part, it says, discuss the objectives of terrorists. So I would start by saying exactly what terrorism is.
Right, okay, good.
And also saying what terrorism financing is, just to start it off.
Okay.
Can
Good.
include the types of terrorists.
Yeah, excellent. Because again, like I said, when we think about terrorism, everybody is focused on 9/11, and everybody in the East or in the West, whatever they call it, in the Middle East, sorry. Yeah, so we totally forget that domestic terrorism. And you can go on the internet, do some research and say, according to the US Times or whatever, there has been 300 and some, an astronomical amount of domestic terrorism in the United States in 2019. But not only in the United States, in different parts of the world, it's just that the United States has the biggest number. So good for putting some information on that. Very good. Anybody else? We're still on the introduction.
You could include terrorist funding.
Right.
I guess the young lady said that already.
Yeah.
The history, I guess you said that already.
Probably you can include the.
Here's some examples.
Why do they decide to cause chaos? Like, what is the reasoning behind it? Do they have a point to prove?
Yeah, what's their motive?
Like, what is the rationale? Like, why are you doing it?
And you could probably give, for instance, with the domestic terrorism, you could give an example of that, and then you could give a example of the international terrorism, so you could kind of get a idea of
both.
Yeah.
Okay, very good, very good. I am very pleased with these responses. Okay, and then a key thing, and this may be more than likely, this will be a multiple choice question, and a lot of people put it in their essays to say that how it's different from money laundering, that money laundering is normally by illegitimate purposes, and terrorist financing is by legitimate and illegitimate purpose. And perhaps if you need more words, you can explain one legitimate way is, and you could take this into your body, and then through charities or through working and donating the money. So good, if you want to. Okay, so the three ways in which terrorists fund their activities, and then, like you said, the objectives, just before we go on, the objectives are training, recruitment, weaponry, stuff like that, right? So we want to include that as well. And then we move on to our 3 ways that they do it. So give me one of the ways and then tell me, is this a legitimate way or is this an illegitimate way?
Legitimate.
Okay, legitimate. Go ahead. You giving me an example?
Of the legitimate ways funded, I guess, through charities and through backdoor funding. I guess, I don't know.
Okay, but no, but see, we want to explain this now. Legitimate ways, a part-time job, and then like you could use that example of the guy whose son went got the part-time job and donated his money, right? Or the person who went to the bank and got the loan.
Yeah, or they can probably even say, hey, you guys want to register to be a terrorist.
Right,
and
so through social media, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
they could probably, I guess, sell them that, hey, you guys can have a better life, you can get married, and then they just sell them this whole dream of you can have this big house, we have family, or we have people who are going to accept you for who you are. So like you say, they basically recruit young persons who are they're being abused in their home maybe, and they're looking for love, or they're homeless or some sort.
Okay.
Would
Okay, very good.
Would that actually fall under the ways that they fund their terrorist activity?
Yeah, because what she's going to say is through sympathizers, and then she's going to give an example, or she will say through through online activity where they try to recruit and make promises.
Yeah, like I think sometime about 2 years ago, there were a few young ladies who I guess they were intrigued by this handsome man, and lo and behold, he was a terrorist. They end up going over to I think it may have been Iraq, and like 2 weeks later, she realized that she was a part of this group that was basically wanting to kill people. They were being recruited to kill people, and like she cried and said that she wanted to come back home because she didn't know what it was. All she knew is she got swept off her feet, and lo and behold, it was a lie. So it's like they prey on persons who either looking for love, or as I said, they're homeless and they don't have anyone to rely on. It was mentioned on CNN and all those other places as well. So if you Google it, you may be able to find a history or a story of it.
Okay, okay, good. Thank you for that. Very good. So what the key thing is once you say how they get it, then you want to give an example and you want to explain it. Okay, and you want to give 3 examples through charities, through sympathizers, through social media, through whatever avenue that they use. And then you want to say, according to the US Times or according to the National Guardian or wherever you would have gotten that information from, you want to state that. Okay, and then you want to tie it all in and say, you know, they are able to fund these objectives because blah, 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 what have you. Yeah, just tie it in and conclude. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so was this all clear as mud?
Yes.
Okay, so it's being recorded, and so if you need to listen, Miguel is going to send you the email. You know, and if you have any questions or concerns, you have my email address to contact me. Just let me know if something isn't clear, if we need to go over it again. But I'm very pleased with this first class, very knowledgeable persons. We don't have to start from the basics, and now I could, you know, beef up the information. I hope it wasn't too much and too overwhelming. I do talk a lot, but I also do try to scale it back so you can digest it and retain it, you know. It's easier when, you know, you don't have to hear my voice for the entire session, you know, it'll keep you awake. So just let me know. I welcome any feedback or any information, you know, to make this process smoother. Okay?
Thank you, doing a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you that you're still awake at the end of all this. I'm happy. Right. So let me know if you have any questions. We have about 5 minutes left. Any questions? Any comments? No? Okay, well, good. So everybody has the homework. Everybody knows that it's due Friday, and I'm certain that it's going to be on time. And then if not, we will talk again next week, Saturday morning at 9:30. Somebody was saying something. I heard somebody
Natasha, I don't think I have the most recent copies of the text for the class.
Okay, so can you please contact the institute, so Miss Dean or Miguel? I don't have any information on the office side. I'm very sorry. So anything about the book and anything else, you would have to contact the office directly. My apologies.
Okay.
Okay, and you do have the office contact.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So just Miss Dean will be there on Monday. You shoot her email or you call her, and she should be able to assist you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Anything else? And I'm going to send you now. Miguel will send you the recording, but I'm going to send you the attachments that I shared with you because I want you to take some time and don't try and do it all at once because it's very comprehensive. Don't do it right afterwards. You need to unwind, take a little break, enjoy a little bit of your weekend, and then pick it back up. And so you retain it. Don't try to overwhelm yourself because it's a lot of information. So I'm going to send you those emails. So by next week, you would have seen these FATF 40 recommendations. You would have looked at some Bahamian law. If you peruse through the central bank guidelines, through all the framework is there. the framework again is there in chapter 3. We'll talk about it next week. And come prepared with your newspaper clippings now. And so to share with the class what would have happened in the news this week. We like some old stories, but we want some current news as well. Okay? Everybody excited?
Okay.
No.
Very much so. We're very much
Okay,
excited.
Good. We gotta make this lively as possible because we don't want nobody falling asleep. Okay, good. So if that's it, I'll see everybody next week. Y'all take care and be safe.
Okay, you too.
All right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.